A few weeks ago, I made a video on the new AMG GT 4-door, fully electric, 1600 audio files faking a V8, and a design that needed Instagram render artists to fix. If you haven't seen it, go watch it, links in the description. This video builds directly on it, because right after that video went out, Porsche dropped something that's directly relevant to everything I said. They've added a feature to the Taycan called E-Shift, simulated gears, synthetic sound tied to it. On paper, that's the exact same conversation as AMG. Same problem, same category solution. But how they did it is a completely different story, and I think it's worth breaking down properly because I think it actually proves the point I was trying to make. Okay, quick recap for anyone jumping in. In my last video, I made the case that there's a real difference between manufacturers who create something honest and new for their EVs versus manufacturers who borrow a legacy combustion identity and fake it through speakers. Porsche's original Taycan sound new, owned, never pretended to be a 911. Hyundai's Ioniq 5N simulated 8-speed gearbox, fully transparent about being something new. And then AMG sampling the actual GTR's exhaust note and playing it back through 1600 audio files to simulate a V8 they no longer put in the car. That was the framework. Now Porsche has entered exactly that conversation with a brand new feature. So eShift is a new option for the 2027 model year Taycan, and it's more thorough than I expected when I first heard about it. It simulates an 8-speed transmission. You shift through it using paddles on the steering wheel. In a decimated manual mode you switch into. It's not just a sound effect layered on top, it's actually how the car behaves. There's a gear specific drag torque that mimics combustion engine braking, a virtual rev limiter, and noticeable shift strokes when you change gears, so you generally feel the car responding the way a gear card would. The sound is tied directly into it. The system reads real speed and motor load in real time and adjusts in the electric sports sound to match, both inside and outside the car. Importantly, each Taycan variant gets its own tune profile rather than one identical setting slapped across the whole range. It's not a cheap bolt-on either. To get eShift, you need the Sport Chrono package, the Bose Urbanmaster sound system, and the electric sports sound feature all fitted together. It comes as standard on the Taycan Turbo GT, but everywhere else it's an option you choose. And alongside this, Porsche dropped a Manti kit for every electric Porsche, and this particular one set a Nürburgring lap of 6 minutes 55. Great if you're the kind of person that cares about such stuff. However, the important distinction here, and it's the same one I made in the AMG video, Porsche's sound team has always said that the electric sports sound is composed from real vehicle sounds, that the motor whirring, the mechanical resonance, and the actual physical character of the car, rather than being generated from nothing or borrowed from somewhere else. It's not synthetic in the sense of being fake, it's curated, and critically, it's not a 911. It's not even a GT3, it's just its own thing, built specifically to be the voice of an electric Porsche. That's kind of the same philosophy Hyundai used with the Ioniq 5N, new identity fully owned, no legacy nameplate sold borrowed to cover the gap. Porsche themselves aren't hiding the lineage either. Multiple reports on this update directly compare eShift to the system used in the Ioniq 5N and Ioniq 6N. They're not pretending this is some untouched, completely original idea. They're acknowledging the influence and then building their own version of it, tuned specifically to their own engineering DNA, the drag torque, the rev limiter, the per model sound tuning. That's the difference between AMG and everyone else in this conversation. AMG samples a specific beloved emotionally loaded combustion car and again used it as a ringtone. Porsche and Hyundai built something that stands on its own and simply borrows the concept of simulated mechanical feedback, not someone else's actual voice. Now I'm going to be fair here because doing it right doesn't mean doing it perfectly for everyone, and it's important to say that clearly. There are going to be purists who simply don't want simulated gears in an EV at all, full stop, no matter how honestly it's built. For some people, the entire concept of pretending an electric motor has 8 gears when it physically doesn't is going to feel gimmicky regardless of execution, which is a completely valid position. A single-speed EV accelerating with total smoothness has its own kind of appeal, and some drivers will always prefer that purity over manufactured drama. There's also a fair question about cost. Bundling eShift behind Sport Chrono, a premium sound system, and the electric sports sound option means this is something people pay extra for, possibly a meaningful amount extra, to get a feature that doesn't add a single additional kilowatt of performance. It's just an emotional purchase dressed up as a performance one, but Porsche is charging accordingly. And on top of that, there's a deeper philosophical question too. Even when a manufacturer builds something honest and new, is the entire idea of simulating mechanical sensations in an EV something the industry should be normalizing at all? Some will say yes, it's the bridge enthusiasts need during this transition. Others will say it's a distraction from just being honest that EVs are a different driving experience entirely, and that's also fine. So, doing it the right way, like Porsche has here, doesn't mean doing it the only acceptable way. It just means doing it more honestly than the alternative. There's also a wider story sitting underneath this entire update that's worth mentioning. You see, Porsche's EV push hasn't gone the way that I expected. Demand for the electric Macan came in lower than projected, and the broader cooling of interest in performance EVs pushed Porsche into a genuine strategic U-turn, postponing development of a new EV platform and shifting back toward combustion engines for several upcoming models. Gas versions of the Macan and Cayenne are probably returning. A new combustion Cayenne is probably coming later this decade, specifically because customers, or some of them, are asking for it. So, Porsche adding something as emotionally driven as E-Shift to the Taycan right now isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening exactly the moment the company is trying to win back enthusiasts who've been lukewarm on electric performance cars. This is Porsche actively trying to make the EV ownership experience feel like less a sacrifice and more like a choice people genuinely want to make. Whether E-Shift comes to the Macan or Cayenne Electric hasn't been confirmed yet. Those models have already adopted interaction display systems that are probably going to come to the next gen Taycan. So there's clearly a pattern of features cascading across the electric lineup over time. It wouldn't be surprising if E-Shift eventually follows that same path, but right now it just seems it's a Taycan only story. So where does this leave things relative to what I said about AMG? Porsche didn't avoid the problem. They didn't pretend an EV doesn't need some kind of emotional bridge for enthusiasts. They've built one. Virtual gears, tuned sound, pedal shifters, the whole experience. Exactly the same category of solution AMG reached for. I think the difference is that they built something that's theirs, not borrowed, not sampled from a legend they didn't earn the right to imitate. Something new, openly inspired by what Hyundai proved could work, but made specifically around Porsche's own identity. Now, as I said, it won't be for everyone. Some people will still think that the whole concept is unnecessary theater in a car that doesn't need it. And that's fair, and it's worth saying clearly instead of pretending this update is universally loved. But compared to what AMG did with the GT 4-door, I think this is how you're supposed to do it. I said that the dominoes are still falling, and they are for some brands. Porsche just showed that there's still a way to catch yourself before you go all the way down.